All right, we are live on YouTube. Mm, And we are live on Instagram. Beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, welcome in, guys. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Me and my girlfriend went on a staycation here, so that was fun to kind of get away. We actually went to like a spa. Never been to a spa before, but it was relaxing. I gotta say, there was like cold plunges and there was like hot plunges, and yeah, it was very good. So every now and then, I think that's nice. But I want to dive into the post here today, and we're going to be talking about our client who has started to stabilize and overcome her reactive hypoglycemia within the past 3 weeks. So it just took her 3 weeks to get to this place. She's been experiencing hypoglycemia for years, and now she's seeing stabilization with her blood sugar. So it's really awesome to see, especially for someone to see that with those results that quickly. It always surprises me with the clients that are able to do that, and that's really with everybody that comes to us with hypoglycemia. It's funny when you have the right environment, the right tools, you're addressing the right things. Movement in the right direction can happen very quickly, and so our client Lily, she came to us with hypoglycemia, reactive hypoglycemia. So having blood sugar crashes shortly after eating. So after every meal, right? And the meal would only last her maybe a few hours before she's having like these crashing type symptoms. So think lightheadedness, shakiness, dizziness, heart palpitations, anxiety, that type of thing, right? And when she's in that place, she would eat, which would temporarily resolve it. But then, over time, she started to develop, more of the fatigue, the burnout, and just feeling more anxious, understandably so, around like food choices and activities and things that she thought connected to those crashes. So, all of a sudden, like food can become more and more and more and more restrictive. Especially sticking with kind of more of your safe foods that either you can confidently say don't contribute to those crashes, right? Or are less likely, and they might even happen anyways, right? And so for many people in this situation, they become very controlled, right? They want to control every single facet of their environment, every morsel of food that they're putting into their bodies, right? Cooking everything from scratch at home, controlling all their activities, reducing the potential risks for some of those crashes. Maybe it's backing down on work. Maybe it's significantly reducing the types of stressors that you're exposed to, even though you can't really control all of those. Cutting out tolerate them anymore, whether that's something as intense as weightlifting workouts as it was for Lily, or walks, right? Something a little bit lower intensive, but still exercise nonetheless. And so we have clients that will often cut out those as well because their blood sugar just automatically crashes. So, before you know it, your lifestyle becomes very restrictive, and the freedoms that you once have, are no longer there. And it starts to become just not a great way of living for most people, very debilitating, right? And so it was for Lily too. She was on a kind of our last leg with it, so to speak, of like understanding, I've done everything that I can, but I know like what else is there that I can do to help to stabilize these, because every single client that comes to us with these crashes, it's not like they're like eating or living unhealthily. They're doing a lot of things right, in fact, but uh, for whatever reason, their blood sugar is still crashing. And we'll get into the reasons for Lily here in a second. But just kind of want to set this up that for many people, they are doing a lot of these healthy behaviors, living healthy, eating healthy, and almost to an extent of the extreme where they're controlling every single facet of their environment, yet they're still experiencing these crashes. And going to Lily, there's three things that really stood out to me when we were working with that really allowed her to make more progress. And one of them was reducing her what we call a cell danger response, or what we call like a stress response, right? Because this is a thing that ultimately keeps you stuck in a cycle of reactive hypoglycemia. It's the thing that drives it. Because if we address this, it's much, much easier to get out, right? Now, stress can come internally from like extra stress hormones that our body is producing. It can come from inflammation, maybe not having the right balance of minerals. but it can also come from the way that we perceive our environment, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be like a huge stress. It doesn't have to be like a job that's, unaligned, or a relationship that's unaligned. It can just be like you don't have the things within your environment that are really truly supporting you, right? And it can be as simple as that. And because of some of those factors, well, our body starts to put out more stress hormones. And when our body starts to put out more stress hormones, we don't process things like carbs as well. We release a lot of insulin in response to that. And so as a result, well, our blood sugar tanks quickly, after each meal. But also, whenever we're in like this high stress state, we tend to deplete more of the minerals that help to prevent that crash from happening, that blood sugar crash. And so our blood sugar is more likely to stay up when we have the minerals that we need. But when we're in this state, when we're losing a lot of those minerals, well, there's no like stop sign in a sense where it says, hey, let's keep the blood sugar at this level. It doesn't happen that way. And so quickly after meals, what many people find is they have an urgency to eat. Like it can be like life or death sometimes, or feel that way at least, where if they don't get something now, they're going to feel absolutely terrible. And it was for our client Lily as well, where meals were kind of like lasting her about 2 hours. But after that, she needed something else to kind of boost her back up again, to avoid some of those crash like symptoms. So that was huge. We started supporting that stress response. And another big part of that was almost like this mindset shift, because how many people approach reactive hypoglycemia, and understandably so, they try to control every single facet of their life, kind of like I was mentioning there. But if we think about that, like, it's probably pretty stressful, right? Probably pretty stressful. And what we find for many clients that are like moving in that direction, where they're trying to control every single food, every single meal, stick to a strict meal schedule. So their lunch is coming at 12, and their snack is coming at 3, and their dinner is coming at 5 or whatever, and they're always bringing food with them. That type of approach almost can increase the stress, right? And whenever we see that in clients where they're trying to control every single facet and really stick to things strictly, right? Um, Automatically we know that they're missing a big piece, right? And it doesn't mean, again, the things that they're doing aren't helpful, but it does suggest the way that you're approaching things is really important, because for most people, whether we recognize it or not, that type of like reaction based living, where we're constantly on edge waiting for the next crash to come, or we're trying to plan for it, like all of those things are done in fear. Like, you're not eating every 2 hours or every hour just because you want to do that. You do that out of fear that if you don't do it, you're going to have a crash. Well, for many people, they're missing big pieces of their lifestyle that if we were to address, they don't have to control as much, right? And that's what we really help Lily do, is recognize, okay, what are those areas that you're really missing right now that would actually allow you to create more stability? And a big piece for that was something known as metabolic flexibility. You might have heard of that term before, but basically what that means is your body's ability to utilize energy, or to produce energy, really, outside of just when you're eating, right? So when you're eating, you get a little bit of a boost, right? It's very similar to, if you're building a fire, right, and you build it with some twigs, and maybe you pour some gas on top, and you have some newspaper, and it really shoots up, right? And it starts that fire. But that fire, as quickly as it shoots up, it's going to fizzle out very quickly as well. And that's very similar to what someone with reactive hypoglycemia experiences. They feel okay maybe after they eat, but shortly thereafter, that energy fizzles out, and then they now have symptoms of that hypoglycemia, right? Versus when we have more metabolic flexibility, even if we don't have a meal for 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 hours, or we miss a meal, we skip a meal, we delay a meal, it doesn't matter, because our body can tap into the energy that we have stored on our body, right? And so those energy deficiency symptoms, they don't happen. So that's a huge thing. So, it's such a big thing when it comes to being able to not just prevent those, but to eliminate those like crashes from actually happening. So we started working on that with Lily as well. The last piece that we really focused in on for her was, not just like eating healthy, because she came in like that. Every single one of our clients already has like a health focus. And so at this level, it's not about like eating healthy. It's about eating healthy in such a way that really works for your body. And there's a nuance with that, right? so many times we get our information or try to piece in information from social media. We try to piece it from books or podcasts, right? And I don't think there's anything malicious about that. But if we're trying to form like a sustainable plan that really hits on a lot of these root causes, it's really hard to do that unless you're working with somebody, right? And so that's what our team helps you to do is recognize, okay, what is your body really responding to best? And for Lily, it was all about like density. And I talked about that fire example before where, the fire shoots up and it fizzles out. Well, with dense foods, they're bulky, they're satiating. They're almost similar to like a dry, dense log that you put on a fire and it burns for hours. You don't have to touch it, right? If you guys have been camping before, you put those logs in the fire and just burns, right? And it's kind of like the same thing with reactive hypoglycemia. When you can find those things that really work for your body, you don't have to micromanage in the hours later. Oh, what am I eating? What am I bringing with me? Right? Is this meal going to make me crash or not? Right? You're not thinking about that. You just stay stable. And so, I think, beyond just the conversation around preventing or limiting these crashes, it goes back to finding an approach that is actually non-stressful. Because if you're working on that and you're saying, "Hey, I don't have to worry about eating, and even if I miss a meal, I'm going to be okay." Well, there's so much mental bandwidth that I think gets freed up as a result of that, where you don't have to worry about just trying to feel functional, right? And that's really, really important for Lily too, because eventually she's not fully healed yet. Nobody heals from reactive hypoglycemia within 3 weeks. Typically, we find for clients it's anywhere from 3 to 6 months. More on the earlier side of it's like been more of a recent thing, but we've had clients that have had reactive hypoglycemia for 30 years, right? So that takes time to reverse some of those patterns. But when you hit on the right things, progress like this can happen in 3 weeks where you're seeing big, big strides in the right direction, right? And so this can build that resilience so that by the point where you're doing something stressful, I'm getting a call here. I feel like I had my phone on do not disturb. I don't know why it's getting through. When you're building that resilience with those dense meals, well, what happens over time? You start to be resilient to those things that you previously reacted to. The carbohydrates, for example, where your blood sugar is crashing afterwards. The desserts, where your blood sugar is crashing afterwards. The exercise, the stressors, where now even if you do those things, you still stay stable, right? And so that's what we're building for her, and she's making great, great progress to do that. She stabilized her blood sugar. She's getting rid of symptoms. Her meals are lasting her a heck of a lot longer than what they were just 3 weeks ago. She's traveling again, which she hasn't done in like 3 years. So again, she's having more fun. She's living again. I think that's a big thing that so many people may forget about reactive hypoglycemia. It becomes all about their health. And all of a sudden, they're not like living, and it opens up their doors to so many other things that maybe they could have done in the past, and now they can do now. And so, I think it becomes just a lot more of a enjoyable day to day for them versus just constantly worrying about where your blood sugar is and what it's doing, right? So we're really proud of her. She has still some ways to go, but to see those results in 3 weeks just speaks to the importance of like when you hit on the right things for you, these are the results that are normal, right? So I hope that is helpful, especially if you're experiencing any issues with blood sugar fluctuations, whether it's spiking or crashing. A lot of these same principles can apply to whatever blood sugar condition that you're working with. And it's not to say that everybody gets the same treatment because we're all individuals, right? We all have unique backgrounds and all of us respond to things differently. But it does go to show that when you have the right tools, especially when it comes to blood sugar, you can see stability very quickly. So that's Lily's story. I'll keep you updated on how she continues to progress, but really proud of her. And like, I know she's a great sense of relief too, that things are headed in the right direction for her. So we will jump on our next live. I'm thinking tomorrow. If you or guys are looking to stabilize your blood sugar naturally, similar to what Lily is doing, please reach out. We'd love to help you. We have 2 more spots available for the month of September here. So reach out in my messages and then we can show you how and just see if it's the best fit for you overall. All right. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and we will talk to you on the next live.